Welcome to Decision Vision, a podcast series focusing on critical business decisions. Brought to you by Brady Ware & Company. Brady Ware is a regional, full-service accounting and advisory firm that helps businesses and entrepreneurs make visions a reality.
And welcome to Decision Vision, a podcast giving you, the listener, clear vision to make great decisions. In each episode, we discuss the process of decision-making on a different topic. Rather than making recommendations because everyone's circumstances are different, we talk to subject matter experts about how they would recommend thinking about that decision. My name is Mike Blake, and I am your host for today's program. I'm a director at Brady Ware & Company, a full-service accounting firm based in Dayton, Ohio, with offices in Dayton, Columbus, Ohio, Richmond, Indiana, and Alpharetta, Georgia, which is where we are recording today. Brady Ware is sponsoring this podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast aggregator, and please also consider leaving a review of the podcast as well. Our topic today is, should I enter a business plan contest? And this topic is interesting, I think, really on the forefront of the minds of many people who are listening to this program, because if nothing else, the business plan pitch contest, if you will, has been made famous by ABC Shark Tank. A show which I still have not seen to this day, by the way, but I'm familiar with what it does. And, you know, pretty much every city with a venture community of any size has some kind of business plan competition in it. And in Georgia, we've had a number of them. Some have come and gone. Some have stayed for the long term. And there are national business plan contests as well. Sometimes alumni groups of universities hold them. I know Georgetown University, my graduate alma mater, has them. Venture firms sometimes hold them as a way of generating deal flow. Business incubators often have them. And, you know, to do one right, to be a participant, it is a time-consuming exercise. And in fact, I've been assigned teams when I've coached and mentored them through the programs, and we'll get 1 or 2 weeks into the process, and they'll say, you know what, I don't have the time, you know, to do this. I'm out. Which is perfectly fine. Rather you do that on week 2 than a week before you're supposed to kind of finish the thing. And so I think it's a fair question to say, you know, why do you put yourself through that? Because the business plan contest has a fair amount of time that you have to invest. Typically, a business plan contest sponsor will have a mentoring, or training program that leads up to the podcast. Leads up to the competition itself, where they want to make sure the teams are all prepared, and that requires some time. And then somewhere along the way, you have a bunch of people that have never met you, that you don't know who they are, and they're in a public forum. They're going to ask you tough, invasive questions about your business, right? And it's fair to say, you know, who needs that? Why would I put myself through that? And I admire the people who go on Shark Tank and are willing to do that in front of an audience, television audience of 30 million people, even though we know a lot of that stage is basically WWE for business. But anyway, but I have a couple of people here who have not been through the WWE version. They have been through at least one business plan contest, and I had the privilege of being their coach, and they were successful enough to overcome my coaching and winning that contest, which was the TAG GRA business launch contest back in 2016 or 2017. I'm trying to remember the year. I think it's 2016 now. And so joining us are Cory Hewett and Evan Jarecki, who are co-founders of Gimme Vending. Gimme transforms the way companies service micro markets, vending, and grocery by automatically identifying products, their placement and inventory levels, using computer vision verified by humans. Gimme software and wireless hardware eliminate errors and manual effort from warehouse staff and route drivers. Gimme empowers route drivers to focus on delivering amazing customer experiences and operators to focus on cash accountability, inventory tracking, and machine status data. Gimme solutions prevent stockouts, accelerate warehousing and restocking, and streamline product planning. For more information, visit www.vending.ai or connect with Gimme on Twitter at GimmeVend. Cory and Evan both are graduates of Georgia Tech and both worked at Gulfstream Aerospace before creating Gimme Vending, and maybe we'll get some of that background in the interview today. But we have some work to do in terms of covering this topic. So, Cory and Evan, thanks for coming on the program.
Hey, thank you, Mike, and good to see you
Mike.
again.
So, you are looking well, and you've had some pretty good success since we last worked together closely, and I'm very happy for you. So, let's go back to sort of that, what I think was something of a turning point for you guys, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Talk about the business plan contest you won sort of at a high level. What was it, and why did you decide that you wanted to take part in it?
So we were, back when we were getting involved with just starting the business, we were trying to get more involved with the Atlanta community and learn what were ways that Gimme could continue to get exposure, and who could we meet through that process. And the Technology Association of Georgia was one of those places that seemed like they were everywhere. The Business launch competition.
That's a good idea. Business X launch.
There we go.
Business Radio X launch competition.
There we go.
So if you want to have a business launch competition through Business Radio X, just send an email to info@businessradiox.com. We'll get right on that.
That's right. No, it was when we decided to go for this competition, the business launch, we made it our total team effort. This was everything for us when we first got involved with the opportunity.
Well, it's certainly attractive to consider working on the business competition because it came with $250,000 worth of prize money and services, $50,000 in non-dilutive cash. That's important to a startup that's just getting off the ground, and then another $200,000 in products and services that we'd be able to use to benefit the business as well. And like you mentioned before, we had to balance that against this idea that if we want to have a real business, at the end of the day, these types of things won't give you a business. Great products, great customers, focusing on those two things is what build a business. The business competition, though, maybe gives you the fuel in the car to take you to where you need to go, or at least maybe get you there a little quicker. So the idea of cash, the idea of services, and the idea of credibility and some exposure within the Atlanta community we thought could be very, very valuable. So like Evan said, once we decided that we were going to do it, we went all in that we were going to focus and put everything into it to maximize our probability of success to winning the competition.
So get in. I forget how many companies there were. I think at the outset there was something like 30 companies. At what point did you start to think you might win? Or did you think you would win day one?
I don't think we thought we were going to win day one.
Right.
We knew that we were going to try really hard to become a winner in the program, but there were a lot of rounds. So I remember the first round, Evan and I hadn't really done an elevator pitch before or had to go on stage to pitch our business, but the one time when we were leaving Georgia Tech and we pitched it to the community there. So we hadn't done it in a televised or a WWE setting or even in front of just an audience of people that didn't include at least a couple friendlies. And so the first round was a couple hundred businesses, and it was more of an informal dinner meet and greet where you had to talk to different investors and judges who were there. You had to go find them. They would write down how you were doing, and if you made an impression, they wrote your name down after you just gave them the cocktail hour elevator pitch of the business. Then you got to make it past that 300 round to maybe the top 30 round.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
it
was a
wild.
speed dating round. Yeah.
That is wild.
A couple hundred.
So along the couple days leading up to it, and even in the car driving over there, I remember in the car driving over there, we took what we had written. We were like, it's all wrong. We have to redo it. Let's redo our elevator pitch. And getting there and talking to judges, and you asked, did we know that we were going to win? Our answer to that is no, but we tried hard. And it wasn't until that very last night, the very final round, we still had no idea, is this going to, was all this effort for naught, or is it going to turn into something? And I remember the moment where we had made it to the top two, and it was me and Stanley Vergelis of another great company called Hux. And we came out there with a lot of theatrics. We had worked with the art department at the SCAD studio where we were presenting. We had sound. We had rented this very expensive high-motion camera to capture our competitor's product exploding. So that happened on stage. We showed that big screen video of the product exploding. We came out with high energy, high theater, and did the best possible pitch we that we could while we were there. And Stanley came out with a very different approach.
Complete opposite.
Opposite. And his performance was so strong that as soon as I left the stage and saw his, it was, I felt good about what we had done. It was the best job we could do. But then when I saw his and the radically different approach, up until the moment that they unveiled the check to say who won, it was not clear.
Right.
So let me follow up on that experience, even though it's not in our script. But you may in the Final Four, you may remember another company had gone on and they had banked on video and it failed. Right? Do you remember that?
And
did that make you at all nervous about what was going to happen with you guys, or were you so tight you didn't even think of it? You just knew it was going to work.
No, we knew it was a risk. One of our another mentor of ours warned us. You never do live demos.
Yeah, I think it was through the coaching and the practice that had us try to maximize for a more guaranteed success with the presentation style, and so that was one of those pieces. Avoiding it. And
and I think that's a good lesson though, is that, mentors and coaches are just that, right? They're not your boss, they're not your mom, they're not your board of directors. At the end of the day, it's your company, right? And if you're going to take a risk, you're going to take a risk. And look, especially at that time, you were in a risky business as a startup, right? So I can see from a certain perspective, look, we're already here, man. We're already here. We're already living with risk on a day-to-day basis. Why are we going to stop now, right?
Right.
Is that a fair way to kind of characterize it?
I think it's a risk-reward thing. We knew that there was going to be risk. The more things that we introduced that we didn't have total control over, like we avoided a live demo that relied on cellular connection because those can go down, and since we violated that rule and it's burned us. So it's a rule for a reason. If you rely on cellular and you do a live demo, it could go poorly. So we had made sure that everything that we were showing was at least local. And the reward for us is if it played correctly, and we had tested it before in the theater to make sure that it would, but we knew that if we got it to play correctly, that the value that it would generate for the audience would hopefully help them get that emotional feeling of what we were trying to do in our space. And maybe it's helpful for the audience. Before we got involved, the technology in our space was really, really old. And the people who were forced to use it had so much pent-up frustration that when they got to watch the competitor's product explode, you could see them light up. And it maybe if we were back in the horse and buggy days and you hated your buggy after a while and you got to watch it just get set on fire and replaced with a car, you'd be like, this is great. And we knew that if we could create that emotional response for our audience, our customers, and if that appealed to the judges as well, then we thought it would be worth the risk of, maybe the chance of a tech error. And I feel terrible for the guy that tried to do the live demo and it didn't work for him because, they're kind of like us, they're working hard to make it work, and nobody wants their demo not to work.
And they were doing well up until that,
absolutely,
up until that point, right? They're a very strong competitor.
Yes.
And that emotional component, I think is really important on two levels. It is tried and true. It reminds me of the Macintosh commercial from years and years and years ago, where they smashed a PC in the middle of a commercial, right? And the whole Macintosh value proposition was, the PC is just designed to frustrate you, right? And the Macintosh is not, right? But everybody wanted to take a sledgehammer to their PC. Every single person, except for maybe somebody working at Microsoft, wanted to do that. And I think you sort of captured on that. And then, second, it seems to me, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, you can only educate an audience so much about your business, right? And preventing stockouts and vending machines, and now at the retail level, it's a great business, right? But it's not the kind of thing that you go to the Thanksgiving table and everybody gets all fired up about. It's not like
Hey, Cory, how's that inventory control going?
That's right. You're not making Call of Duty, right?
Right.
But if you can connect on that emotional level, right, everybody gets it. And you don't even have to be in the business. If you've just ever been frustrated by technology, your laser printer didn't work, your Wi-Fi crapped out, you get it, right? And I think that's what really helped.
I think that one other special component that was, I think our secret sauce to the presentation was probably bringing a customer on stage. This was something a little bit later in the practicing and the presentation style, where we actually were able to include our first customer as a part of the presentation midway through the numerous stages, but along the way that set us apart. And we think had led to some of the success and the understanding from the audience that this is a real opportunity. And this customer has helped us understand exactly what Gimme does.
I think that was very dramatic. I don't think I've ever seen that done in a pitch before.
Yeah.
And, in the minds of all of those judges, whenever they're looking at those companies, okay, it's great what technology they have. Is there actually a market for it? And the fact that you brought the market with you on the stage, I think I think that won it for you, frankly. I mean, the video was great, and I think that got you to the top two. But the customer that was saying, yeah, I'm buying this and it's going to save my business. How do you sort of say no to that? And I'm sure the other competitors are like, we should have done that. They're looking at their coaches like, why did you tell us to do that? So, other than kind of the speed dating part, what parts surprised you about the process, if anything?
I think the biggest surprise were the different changes that needed to be made throughout each round. Round one was a speed dating with 300 companies, very quick pitches, no presentation, just you verbalizing it. Round two was an 8-minute pitch, I think it was.
8 minutes right before St. Patrick's Day.
Right before, on St. Patrick's Day, I think it was.
That's right, we wore green.
Yeah, exactly. It was that was an 8-minute pitch, and there was an audience involvement in that one. And then it moved to a 20-minute pitch, and that was where we brought in the customer, and that was in front of the theater in the auditorium. And then from there was the final four, which was a 3-minute solo CEO founder pitch. It was changing and preparing for each of those. That was a big surprise for us. Not just
one was different.
Each was different.
And you had to make it through the screening round of each one, so it required so much creativity. You couldn't just reuse the same presentation. We'll just dress it up or make some tweaks. It was brand new every single time to appeal to a different within a different environment, different audience, different levels of theater and energy. At least in our case, bring the customer on stage. So each one required its own set of problem solving. The other thing that surprised me, not just the rounds, was, if you will, a little bit of the stress and the time consumption. So we knew, with your help, you're like, hey, I'd rather you quit right away than at the end. I think we got the same advice back then too, because this is going to be really tough. So we knew it was going to be tough and time consuming. And when we got into it, it was tough and time consuming. And it still was a surprise how much we were spending in time. And then the stress, I remember the 8-minute on the St. Patrick's Day, it stuck out to me because I got up there to start speaking, and, young in your career with public speaking, I made it up to the stage and my tongue got so dry I couldn't form words. I'm just trying to make noises with this stick of sandpaper in my mouth, and I'm watching the timer go down. I'm just, physically, I lacked the ability to speak properly and just trying to force my way through it. So the stress was just a little bit surprising. And I think that you'll get that on your entrepreneurship journey, no matter who you are or what the circumstances, you'll go through that too. But that was a bit of a surprise.
Okay. And is there a part that you thought was the hardest to address? Was it the stress? Was that the hardest part, or the time you had to put in? Or was there something else that stood out as a challenge of being a participant in something like this?
Well, I think Cory had mentioned this in the beginning, was the focus of as a business owner, putting everything into your customers and your product. And because of the time consumption, it was highly distracting towards being able to focus on product and on customers, because there were days that would go by where the entire day was spent preparing for the next presentation or just creating the slide deck or whatever it might have been. And that can distract from the main goal and sometimes just be challenging to say that the purpose that, why we're in this competition is for customers, is for the business, and just kind of reassuring that even though you may not be developing or making that very next feature in the moment, it still serves a very important purpose. So it's just making sure that balance was maintained between both throughout the time.
And I want to stop and highlight that, because I think that's very important and very instructive, that if you walk into this process thinking that's going to be this side gig that you spend a couple hours a week, you're not going to be very successful. You'll probably be eliminated in the first round. Certainly are unlikely to win. And I didn't realize this. You really took the perspective. This was not a side gig. This is this is part of executing your business, right? Right. And the fact that you are willing to take whole days off from the quote core operations of your business to pursue that exercise. I did not know that. And I think that if you're listening to this and you're thinking about being in this kind of program and you have designs of being successful, are you in a position to make that kind of commitment?
Right.
Because if you aren't, maybe this isn't the right time to do it. I think that's a very important bullet.
And that's okay to do too.
Right.
Through that exercise, we've become pretty selective
Yes.
in what we choose to do, because we can lose a competition and win at the business. But winning at the competition does not necessarily guarantee in any way that you're going to win at business. So
Right.
you have to focus on the business first. And if you do take a day or 2 days or 3 days off for the competition, you have to keep in mind it's in many ways a vanity.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change your core business. It won't make your customers happier necessarily, and your product won't be any more mature or better tested or better evolved at the end of the process.
But you had a goal of starting to build a network and starting to get your name out there, right? And I think that was part of the justification that, you also wanted the money and the prize. We'll get to that in a second. But, you were students at Georgia Tech at the time or recently graduated?
Myself recently graduated.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate the intro at the beginning, but I actually left with a couple classes left my senior year to found this company.
Oh, so I didn't know that.
I'm not a graduate at Georgia Tech.
The secret is out.
I'm a senior year dropout of Georgia Tech that left to pursue this. I went full time.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're like a bunch of other loser dropouts like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates. So what did they ever do, right? I'm sure they'll be happy to have you back at your leisure. You
were bringing up what we had just left Georgia Tech, and was the value going to be that we could get more credibility in addition to the cash and services? And the answer was we had to be somewhat calculated, and we knew that as very junior members of the entrepreneurship community in Atlanta, we'd have to be willing to spend a little bit more time to get that exposure.
Yeah.
And we knew that we were going to have to raise. We're a company that has software as well as hardware. So we knew that raising money, fundraising would be on the horizon. And actually the investment and time within the pitch could be recycled just in benefit and education to young entrepreneurs, and all the materials and presentations we were preparing for these pitches could be recycled in the future outside of the competition as well. And actually consolidating it, getting the mentor help, for instance, from you. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you did that really helped us out was when you brought together that Shark Tank style other community business people.
I forgot about that.
I remember that so well because it gave us that raw critical feedback that mom and dad and friends and even people that in the community may not be willing to tell you, oh yeah, that's a terrible slide. Oh no, that I didn't understand you at all. I would never invest in you. You need that feedback. Yep. And you helped give it to us. So we were able to make the decision, not just hopefully we win some money, but even, we set out to do our best to win, but we knew even if we didn't, we could recycle that effort and turn it into something positive for the business down the road.
I forgot about that. And, even at that point, we've been working together for, about 10 weeks or so.
Right.
And by that time as a mentor, I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid, right? Which means that my ability to be that effective sounding board on myself was starting to become impaired, frankly. So, that probably is a good lesson that, if you're in a program and your mentor isn't setting that up, set that up for yourself, right?
Because if your mentor is too nice, that's a problem.
It can be. It can be. So, so you receive cash and services and prizes, and I've heard people sort of kind of thumb their noses at $50,000 in cash, but $50,000 for a startup, actually, you can get a lot done with that.
Right. That was actually really helped one of our first full-time employee hires.
Really?
We'd worked with contractors and part-time, but when you bring on that first FTE, you want to make sure that you don't have a couple weeks of salary in the bank. You want a couple months so that you know that you can play this thing
You're not
out.
laying them off in 3 weeks.
Right. Hey, you're hired. Oh, just kidding. This is difficult.
Thanks for everything. There'll be no severance.
So the $50,000 in cash made a difference to us because we were bootstrapping as hard as we could. As young entrepreneurs at the very beginning of their journey, you're hustling and you're putting everything together that you can, and to bring that first person on board full time, that's the difference it made for us, along with a couple other things. So that's what we saw in our mind. If we win this, we can earmark the funds to grow the team. And I don't know if I'm skipping ahead on
Go
what
ahead.
we wanted to talk about or
Keep going.
speaking unchronologically, but that was a big moment for us. We did win the competition. That was a proud moment. And then we immediately put up our first job ad for a full-time employee and brought him on. And that was another huge victory. And that really helped the product and the customers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it turned into something really positive for us.
And on the other side, you also won some services. I've always kind of wondered, how much do the winners actually take advantage of the services? I think my firm offered business valuation, and somebody's offering legal services, accounting services, I don't know, manicures, mani-pedi. I have no idea. Did you find yourself taking advantage of those?
We printed out that Excel spreadsheet and we went down the list and we contacted every single one, and we were going to extract 100% of the value that we could out of it.
Right.
And it actually turned into some pretty neat relationships that we still have today. At the time, you were working for HA&W.
Yep, Aprio now, yep.
Right.
We now continue to work with Aprio.
Good.
Yep.
We were able to work with a PR team called Carabiner.
Yep. We work with Carabiner still to this day. And that was where we had been introduced to them, was from the business launch competition.
I saw you were working with them. I'll go ahead and give them some free adverts. I'm a big fan of Peter Barron's and Carabiner, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, we love working with them, and we wouldn't have had that relationship without them participating and giving their services. And we were able to spread out the dollar amount, so it lasted us about a year of being able to work with Peter and his team to benefit the company. And I mean, Evan, you're still working with our account rep there pretty much daily, right?
Yeah, it's in a week-to-week basis, but participating in some of the things that we plan for on the day-to-day. Like most recently, one of the biggest events that we've done was a live stream product launch. This was something that Carabiner was heavily involved in and actually participated in person for some of the event planning. So the introduction has been extremely valuable to the growth of our team and of our product.
One of the services that really stood out was with the management psychology group. And
no kidding.
Yeah. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Evan and I probably wouldn't have chosen to do this if we had to pay cash out of pocket to do this. But having gone through the experience, now I see that there's a lot of value in this, especially if you're headhunting for a founder level role or an executive level role.
Right.
But it was a 2-day process, 2 half days, where Evan and I went in and they tested all parts of our psychology. They had quizzes for intelligence, et cetera, to try to see how people would work together. And I don't think we would have done it because Evan and I already knew we worked well together because we were great together. And but we went through the process, and it was so fascinating to have it broken down for why that was. And when we got the results back of this management psychology test, Evan and I at the core groups, the big categories, were highly, highly similar. But when they broke it down to the subgroups, the reason why and the little things that make people unique, he and I were extremely dissimilar. So it was like we shared common big goals, but we had lots of complements where I was weak, he was strong, where he was strong, I was weak. And it played really nicely to see how that worked out. And we wouldn't have got that either without the services. And it's just an example to me that stands out. I still remember it today, like, how do you work so well with Evan? Like, actually, it's fascinating. I have a diagram that shows it.
Yeah, we kept the
Here's what our
reports.
shrink says.
They're really neat. I mean, it was very in depth and something we've kept as and I think the exact same thing holds true to this day. It's very interesting, and yeah, it was a fun experience.
It's weird how sometimes topics come together. Right after this one, we're going to be recording a podcast about executive leadership. Basically from another kind of industrial psychology company. I may kind of bring that up with them and see kind of what their view is on those kinds of approaches. One thing that also struck me about when you guys won, you both had family there, I think, right?
Yes.
In both the public pitches, we had family.
You did, okay. And I've never asked you this question, and it's a little off topic, so if you don't want to answer, we'll edit it out. But was there a sense of kind of validation, when you, I don't know if you have entrepreneurial families or not. If you don't, sometimes they're kind of looking leery, you've got this great education. Why aren't you going and getting a job? Your Gulfstream, you could have had a great career there, 6 figures, right? Was there any kind of kind of validation maybe to family members that were worried about the risk you took, that this is sort of an external validation that you guys are going to be okay and really onto something? Or am I playing Dr. Phil and I should not get in the psychology business?
I don't know if Evan would share this necessarily, so
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind if I do.
Yeah, go for it.
But Evan did have the job lined up when he was graduating. So he'd already accepted the job offer from Gulfstream. He'd already selected his apartment. He was ready to go make that transition in his life when we started talking about Gimme. And my pitch to him is, hey, we should, work 100 hours a week and, we can't pay each other any number of dollars for probably the first year or so. And it would involve you not going down to Savannah and you'd have to quit your job that you haven't started yet. And maybe make sure that your parents are comfortable leaving you on health insurance and stuff a little longer. How does that sound? And
I guess it sounded all right.
Well, I think the way I describe it is that it unlocked I had some sort of limiter on where I thought a career, what I thought a career meant, and I don't think I had ever considered entrepreneurship as a career path until there was an opportunity presented to me and actually think about what that could mean. And so it just totally removed the limiter and said, there's no reason not to take this opportunity is what it became. So I just had to put the pieces together to make it work.
So I remember when Evan told me, I talked to my parents about it. They're a little concerned, but they're supportive and they're really good people. So they were supportive, but I could tell that, mom's eyes got real big when she's like, oh, he's quitting the Gulfstream job.
Right.
That he hasn't started yet.
That's nice.
What's the new salary?
What's the plan?
Oh,
here?
It's nothing. Oh, good luck. And
right. Not another job that pays you. No, it was totally different.
So I remember for them, they were in the audience when we made it through that first round. Mm-hmm, and I don't know, the look on their face, and my parents were there too, and I think they were proud. But I know for your parents, that was the first entrepreneurship big endeavor that you had done, the big first external validation.
Yes.
You could just see the pride, and you could see a lot more confidence. Like, wow, our son is not just, quote unquote, trying to be an entrepreneur, but people believe in him too. And the next thing happened on that final round. We didn't just invite mom, dad. We invited grandma, grandpa, and then we also invited a couple of our customers and a couple of the other people that have been rooting us along along the way. Evan, I know you took a valet job at the very beginning of Gimme to help pay the bills while we're making the company work. Didn't you invite one of your top valet customers there too?
Yeah. That may have been my first. Actually, that experience might have been it was a big failure that turned into a really happy valet customer, if you will. I just worked for the valet company, but there was an experience we had with just a car parking situation where I was able to diffuse the whole situation. I caused it and I diffused it, and they became a really happy, repeat customer, and they actually got involved with what we were working on at Gimme, and they participated in the tag, the business launch competition as well. So we brought in, people from kind of everywhere during the first year's journey.
I remember that you had a lot of fans in that room, and when you won, it looked like kind of the ending credits of an episode of Family Feud. Sure. I mean, they just sort of swarmed the stage, and I thought they were going to put you up on their shoulders, but it was great to see. Have you done anything like that since? Have you been in any other contests, or did you just retire after one championship?
Quite like that, no. We haven't been in any multi-round pitch competitions quite like that. And most of it had to do with we extracted a lot of the value that we could. And like we mentioned, a lot of it was getting in front of the right people, in addition to the cash and services, getting a name for ourselves in the Atlanta community. And thankfully, it helped us do that. So now I don't know if the reward for doing that again would be as profound or pronounced for us. But we have competed in a couple other competitions since. Actually, the tag business launch unlocked many opportunities in the area. We were invited to Venture Atlanta, one of the largest now that we've seen and participated in. And actually, it speaks to this kicked off and falls in line with us as one of our core values. The number one is fiercely driven to win. That's our top core value in the team.
It's our top core value. And it's related to customers, and it's related to making sure that we are working for them. But it also does speak to the competitive nature of applying ourselves in these areas. So we do participate in other contests and competitions. Recently, we won Best B2B Startup in Atlanta.
That had a number of good competitors in that category.
Great companies in that one. So we've won and we've lost, but we do participate, and when we do, we look to do a good job.
I remember one of the ones that we lost actually right after the Tag Business Launch competition. We were kind of on a high feeling of, wow, we can, if we set our minds to it.
Like, how big can we take this thing? Where can we go with it?
And our very next big thing that we applied for was actually the first season of Apple's TV show called Planet of the Apps,
right?
Where they were going to look at software startup founders and how their journey is going. Mm-hmm. And we made it past the first round, and then they unceremoniously dropped us and let us know that we didn't make it past the second round. And so, yeah, we're trying and failing. Mm-hmm. We try to be selective so that we continue to keep our top focus on products and customers. But like Evan said, we've just recently been named Atlanta's Best B2B Startup. We were named recently as well to Atlanta's 50 on Fire. So we're proud of that accomplishment. That was just a couple weeks ago. Within the industry, our team as a whole has been named Pros to Know, and some of the individuals have been named individually the Pro to Know on separate years as well. Each one of our products, and we have 3 now, each one of our products has been named the number one product in vending the years that it's been released. So we're super proud of that as well. So we're trying, sometimes failing, but we're continuing to try and apply that fiercely driven to win mentality.
Well, these are harder to win. It's not like a basketball game. It's more like a golf tournament, right? Basketball game, you have one opponent, that's it, right? But when you have to beat a field, right?
Right.
Even Tiger Woods at his heyday, right? Only won 20% of his tournaments, right? And, he arguably the best that ever played. So, I think you're doing all right. I think you're doing just fine. So, since the competition, tell us the story now. How are you guys doing? You obviously won a lot of awards. You're expanding. You guys able to pay yourselves now? You're not,
not in the public dole for free anymore.
You're not working for free anymore. Right. Good. You have the most up-to-date Macs, I assume.
We do. The toolkit we actually advertise as part of our recruiting tool. Everyone gets brand new Apple products to be able to get their job done well. So we're expanding. We have about 20 people on the team now. We've got great offices. This year we've just added 401k to our suite of benefits.
Yeah, you're really growing up.
Mm-hmm. And I think that we have a team culture that has attracted serious top players. So we're really proud of that accomplishment. I know that maybe people don't speak to those metrics first, but the team of people that we have to work with now is just incredible. When you work at it, if you will, alone, and then you hire that first one, if you can surround yourself with other people who are willing to match that and just put in so much effort to help the business succeed, it's something special. It's a different feeling than when you first start the company. So that would be my top metric of success. Is the team right now is just crushing it, and we're so proud of them. Outside of the team as well, we've seen our products and services grow. We started with the one. We talked about we exploded our competitor's product. That's how we started. That was one product, but now we've seen it expand from just a field service tool to, you mentioned it at the very beginning. Now we're managing the products and their inventories for the entire warehouse, the schedules of the people that service them. So our software is expanded. And then earlier this year, we announced that we could handle not only an entire warehouse of inventory and field services, but we could do that through computer vision and a neural network training. And to see that start to take off has opened up our customer base from just vending operators to now vending operators, micro market operators, and people who deliver to grocery stores. And for the first time, that means that now some of our customers are publicly traded, and we're just thrilled at the growth that we've seen even as recently as this year. That's taken us to a new level.
So I'm curious, to get to that point, have you raised any outside money, or are you still just self-funded?
We did raise money. After the Tag Business Launch competition, we raised an angel round.
Okay.
We were able to include David Cummings and John Lally, which were introductions that were either directly or indirectly helped, actually, from the competition. That's where we raised our first $500,000. And since then, we've added a couple other institutional and larger people on our cap table as well. So to date, we've raised just over $2 million. And then we have our sight line to a couple more exciting things in the near future.
Very good. So I promised I wouldn't keep you here too long, so I'm going to wrap it up. But if people are kind of thinking about getting into a competition of their own, they want to know if they should do it or get some advice, can they contact you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to reach out to us is first through our website, www.vending.ai, and go to our team page there. You'll see Cory and our bios and profiles, and you can get connected with us there. We've actually loved participating in the Atlanta community, especially as mentors and volunteers in programs we've been a part of in the past. And then look, of course, for any individuals one-on-one. Cory will give anyone's slide presentation a good judging, that's for sure, and it's worth it. Trust us with that one. He's got a knack for it. So,
all right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's program. I'd like to thank Evan Jarecki and Cory Hewett of Gimme Vending so much for joining us and sharing their expertise with us. We'll be exploring a new topic each week, so please tune in so that when you're faced with your next business decision, you have clear vision when making it. If you enjoy these podcasts, please consider leaving a review with your favorite podcast aggregator. It helps people find us so that we can help them. Once again, this is Mike Blake. Our sponsor is Brady Ware & Company, and this has been the Decision Vision Podcast.